Um, I say so. So. We've been learning uh, that there are the different madreges um, between Asay Tov, Surmeira, Asay Tov, and Baki Sholem. We learned also the madreges in Ahava because we have the level of B'chol levavcha, u'b'chol nafshecha, u'b'chol mo'idecha, which is memali kol almim, seviv kol almim, and atzmus. So today, now the Rebbe is continuing that in order to really reach the level of teshuva, we have to do the highest level of Bechol Me'idecha, which is higher than Medidav Hagbal, higher than measure. How does one make up, do teshuvah? If a person didn't do what Hashem wanted him to do, so what he basically did, he violated, he went against the Eibishter's will. The Eibishter wanted him to do a mitzvah. He didn't do a mitzvah, or the Eibishter did not want him to do an Aveira, and he did. So he went against the Eibishter's will. How do you fix that? So it's explained when you do teshuvah, you make up a new ratzon. You make up a new that now the previous ratzon that you violated is no longer. Now you have a new ratzon. The new ratzon means that Hashem wants and that you are accepted to Hashem. Before, the way you were accepted to Hashem was by doing the mitzvahs, by keeping the Torah. But now that you violate it and you're turning to Hashem, the way you're accepted to Hashem is because you create a new Ratzon, a Ratzon Chodesh. How is that new Ratzon created? Through the level of Tshuva B'chol Moedecha. The Rebbe explains. V'hine Yodua, and behold, it's known. Dezeh shal yidei hatshuva nasa slichas avoina is the fact that through tshuva, the sins are forgiven. The sins are not that makes the slichas avoina is the amitis inyan haslichahu. What is the true idea? What does really forgiving mean? Forgiving is more than just, okay, you're not going to pay, we're not going to punish you. Meaning, forgiving means to be accepted to Hashem, who shaha'odom yiyeh merutze lefonov yizbarech k'moi koidem hachet. That the person should be willing before Hashem. Hashem should accept him. Hashem should warn him. He should be accepted just like before this sin. When he sinned, he was no longer accepted by Hashem because he violated Hashem's wishes. In order for the tshuva to really be, and Hashem forgives him, meaning that Hashem now is happy and accepts him as he did before he did his sin. So, how does this happen? How does this change that Hashem accepts him? More huki al yidei hatshuva mamshichim rotzen chodesh. Because through tshuva, we draw down a new will from Hashem, me'er ein sof, bal harotzen, from the ein sof, the master of the will, which means the rotzin that Hashem has that you do Torah mitzvahs. Who wants that? That is the Eibishter. The Ein Sof wants you to do Torah mitzvahs. But here, when you violated the Torah mitzvahs, we want a new rotzen. We need a new will Hashem should want us. That is, we tap in a new will from the Ein Sof, the Baal HaRotzen. He's the master. Before he wanted Torah mitzvahs, but now the master can accept you because you tap into the owner of the Rotzen, and that brings down the new Rotzen. Shelemaila meharotzen the Torah mitzvahs. This is higher than the Rotzen for Torah mitzvahs. V'hamshacha, and this hamshacha, he al yidei hasiyas hatshuva sheloi ba'ofen de b'chol meidecha. When the person does tshuva in a way that he is b'chol meidecha, which is l'maylo mimedida v'hagbola, beyond any measure limitation, that's how you tap in to higher than limitation into the Baal HaRotzen. Ki yadua, as it's known, shal yidei ha'ava de b'chol me'idecha, that through the ava of b'chol me'idecha, oisin ritzoyne shel mokim. When you have b'chol me'idecha, the Gemara is interesting. Gemara in Brochas, the Gemara discusses there when the contradiction of two psukim, whether Yidden need to do the work themselves or the nations of the world will do the work for the Yidden. So the Gemara resolved the contradiction by saying, when the Yidden do the will of Hashem, then they don't need to work. But when they don't do the will of Hashem, then they have to work by themselves. But it says, where does it say you do it by itself? It says in the pasuk in V'hoyim Shemoya, V'osafto degonecho tireishcho v'yitzerecha, you will gather the grain, which means the Yid himself will have to do the work. So that is talking about, the Gemara says, why would you have to do the work? Because you don't do Ratzon Shel Mokim. So the question is, in the tshlez, the Marshavler explain, but what does it mean? It says, "V'hoyo im shamoya tishma mitzvaysa asher anochi mitzaveh eschem." So we are doing what Hashem wants. Why do we say that v'asafta degonecho, that says in the pasuk that you're going to have to do the work, is because you don't do Ratzon Shel Mokim. So they explain over there that in the Parsha Shniya of Shema, in V'hoyim Shemoya, we don't have the word B'chol Moedchem. It says B'chol Avavchem, B'chol Nafshchem. In the first Parsha of Shema, it says V'havta B'chol Avav, B'chol Nafshchem, B'chol Moedecha. So basically, when we have B'chol Moedecha, that is Oisim Ritzoyne Shel Mokim. Then you do Hashem's will. What does it mean, do Hashem's will? I mean, of course, we're not talking about doing mitzvahs, because that's Im Shemoya Tishma, we also do mitzvahs. So the way they teach it is that Oisin Ritzoyne Shel Mokim, you making up a rotzen from Hashem. This is the level of creating a rotzen that the Eibishter should want. That notwithstanding the fact that the person violated the Torah mitzvahs, he taps into the Baal HaRotzen and is Oisin Ritzoyne Shel Mokim. But when is that? It's in the Parsha Rishona, in the Shemaim, where it says, B'chol levavcha, b'chol nafshcha, b'chol moedecha. When you have b'chol moedecha, you have it l'maylo memedida v'hagbola. That is when Oisin Ritzoyne Shel Mokim. You make up the will of Hashem. Upirush Oisin Ritzoyne Shel Mokim. Who? What does it mean? You do. It's not you do what Hashem wants, but you make a new will by Hashem. Oisim es harotzen. That you make up the rotzen. There should be a rotzen. Ki al yidei ha'ava de b'chol me'idecha. Through the love of b'chol me'idecha, Magim ba'orein sof shelemaylo merotzen. You reach the orein sof, which is higher than the rotzen. V'al yidei zeh mamshichim mishom rotzen chodesh. And through this, you bring down a new will. So the Eibishter accepts you now again after you have violated the previous will, the Ratzin. Now there is a new Ratzin because you brought down through B'chol Ma'idecha, through that level of tshuva, you brought down a Ratzin Chodesh, a new will. And the Rebbe says there's basically two things that are happening over here. First of all, you are making a new will from you reaching up in the Ein Sof, which is higher than Ratzon, because in order to make the new will, you have to go higher than the will that was there already. You have to go to the Baal HaRatzon, you have to go to the Ein Sof. So Teshuvah goes to a higher place. And number two, the actual Ratzon itself is a higher Ratzon than the Ratzon for Torah Mitzvahs. The Ratzon that Hashem accepts you is a higher Ratzon than the Ratzon for Torah Mitzvahs because He accepts you even though you violated the previous Ratzon. So this is a higher level Ratzon. So you're tapping into a higher place to the Ein Sof, to the Baal Ratzon, and you're also bringing down a greater Ratzon. Rebbe explains that this similarly is in the Avodah of B'chol Moedecha. That you have these two parts in your Avodah. Pi HaYodua, based on what is known. Sh'avodas ha'odom, sha'al yodo nasis ha'hamshocha. That the service of man, when we work, and we, through our work, we make up that hamshocha. Our work needs to be similar to what we're bringing down. Yesh loymar, we can say the shnei ha'inyonim be'osin ritzoynei shel mokem. The two aspects in making the will of the of Hashem, making up the rotzin. What are the two aspects? Number one, shahamshocha hi me'orin sof shel lemayla mebchinas rotzin. That you are drawing down from the Ein Sof, which is higher than the Rotzin. Rotzin, it's already come out. This is the Baal HaRotzin, the Ein Sof. So that's where you are bringing it down from a higher place. B'shagam HaRotzin shenimshach mishom. And that also the Rotzin that comes from the higher place. Once we do have the Rotzin, hu lemayla yoser meharotzin k'moshu mitzad atzmei. That is a higher level of Rotzin than the Rotzin is on its own, without having to have tapped into the Baal HaRotzin to make a new Rotzin. This Rotzin that Hashem wants you now is a greater Rotzin, a stronger Rotzin than the Rotzin before. Is these two aspects nasim al yidei dugmas shnei inyonim elu. When we do similar to these two aspects, ba'ava de b'chol ma'idecha, in the love of b'chol ma'idecha. What is the two aspects? The al yidei sha'ava de b'chol ma'idecha lemaylu merotzen. The fact that the love of b'chol ma'idecha, it's higher than you wanting. Explained before that the difference that the whole nafshecha, even though it's mesiras nefesh l'mayla medida v'agbola, but it's you want it. What is the idea of b'chol ma'idecha? It's l'mayla merotzen. It's higher than wanting. It's not that you want it, but it can't be otherwise. Ukenal siv daled, as we said earlier in siv daled, sham mesiras nefesh the b'chol ma'idecha. When we talk about the mesiras nefesh and the level of b'chol ma'idecha, is loy shehu roitze limser nafshay. It's not that he wishes to give over his life. That's b'chol nafshecha. Elo she'eino yochel lipored chas v'sholem achdus yisbarach. He just cannot be separated, God forbid, from blessed unity of Hashem. So it's not that he wants, but he cannot be separated. So it is higher than Ratzon. Lochein hi magas bebal harotzin. So from that aspect of bechol moedecho, it reaches, it touches, it goes to the bal harotzin, which is higher than rotzin. But bezeh shal yidei ha'ava de bechol moedecho. The other aspect, that through the ava bechol moedecho, nase ilui gam beha'ava de bechol levavcho bechol nafshecho. That brings about an advantage also in the love of the chol nafshecha, that it's on a higher madrege, that it makes the whole love, picks it up. It's a love of b'chol moedecha. That way, the rotzin that comes from the bal rotzin is on a higher level. So basically, the Rebbe explained over here that through Teshuva, we bring about a new Rotzin, because we tap into the Bal HaRotzin and we bring in the new Rotzin. How do we do that? Through the Avodah B'chol Moedecha. And there's two aspects that happen here. First of all, we tap into the Bal HaRotzin to Eirin Sof. And number two, the Rotzin is a higher Rotzin, which is the two avodas in B'chol Moedecha. First of all, beyond Medida v'Hagbola. It's not a Rotzin, but it's beyond Rotzin, because it's just you can't be separated from Hashem. Not that you want Hashem, but you can't be distant, separated from Hashem. And the fact that it elevates all the Rotzin brings out a higher level of Rotzin. And now we're going to go back to explain the opening of the Maimer of Shuva Yisrael ad Havaya Lekecha, what it means, Shuva Yisrael ad Havaya Lekecha. Why we need both names, as we said before, it's the Loisas and the Esses, so we need everything. But what does it mean, ad Havaya Lekecha? In the Alter Rebbe teaches, in the first teach, ad Havaya Lekecha, that Hashem should become Elikecha. How could Hashem become Elikecha? That means the Sovev should be in the Malay that comes through being Mamshich from a higher place. Because, as we said before, we need to do Teshuvah, so we need to tap into a higher place, higher than Hashem and Elikim. In order to do that, that's why we need the level of Shuva, which means, if a person doesn't do Avedas, it doesn't need to do Teshuvah. Hashem and Elikim are enough. You have the level of Memalekul Almim, which is Asay Tov. You have, with Surmeda, you have the level of Seviv Kul Almim, which is the level of Asay Tov. And then you don't need to come on to the higher level. But when you need to do Teshuvah, so over there, you need to tap in to the higher level to be the Slichas Avoinus. So because Choshalta Avenecha, we need Hashem to become Elikecha, which comes through the higher level. Let's look inside. But Zehu Shuva Yisrael Ad Havaya Elikecha. This is what we say, Shuva Yisrael Ad Elikecha. Ze shenemru kan beis Hashemis Havaya Elikim. The fact that we have both names over here, Hashem Elikim, who, because as we said before, Hashem and Elikim represent Asay Tov and Surmeira. Hinyone be'avidose shel kol echad mi Yisrael hu, because every Yid, his matter, his service is bebeis Shem Eselu, in the two names. V'kivon she'inyan ha'tshuva, what is the idea of teshuva? Sheyoshu v'yachzer l'mekoymei, that you need to, that he should return and come back to your place. So we need everything to go back where they belong. L'kach nemar kan beis Hashemis, the Havaya v'Elikim. We say both the Shemis of Havaya and Elikim, which means we need to bring both the name of Hashem and Elikim. That's the regular avodah of a yid. But what does he say? V'zeh shomer ad havaya lekecha, till havaya lekecha, v'loi le havaya lekecha. Doesn't say to Hashem lekecha. Who kepirush admur hazokin, that Alter Rebbe touched. Sheshiur hatshuva. What is the measure? How much tshuva do you need to do? What is the shiur for tshuva? Who ad shav vaya yeh lekecha, until havaya, which is the level of sovev kol almim, will be lekecha, will be memale kol almim, until the level of higher than medida v'hagbola, the person's service in the higher level, in an unlimited way, should become the infuse also the limited avodah. Sh'atshuva tzricha liyos ba'ofen the b'chol me'idecha l'maylo b'medida v'hagbola. The tshuva needs to be in a way which is higher than measure and limitation. Sh'al yidei zeh, if you go higher than medida v'hagbola, hi hamshocha me'erin sof shalamaylo me'havaya. That's how you bring the hamshocha from the Ein Sof, which is even higher than havaya. And when could you see that you're bringing down a higher level than Havaya is when Havaya becomes Elikecha. That means that you are mamshich from a higher place. The inyan zeh shahamshocha hi me'erin sof shelamayla ma'havaya. This concept that you're bringing down from the Ein Sof, which is higher than Havaya, mizgala bazeh shavaya hu Elikecha. That is revealed in the fact that Hashem becomes Elikecha. Koichacha v'chayusecha becomes your power. Shuva Yisrael ad Hashem Elikecha, to the extent that Hashem will be Elikecha. Because when can that means to be mamshich a higher level than Havaya Elikecha? Because when could we tell that your mamshich from a higher level is when Havaya becomes Elikecha? Ki bichdei sheyid achibur d'sovev Havaya umemale Elikim. In order to make that connection of Havaya and Elikim, that Havaya should become Elikecha, hu al yidei shamshocha hi me'erin sof shelamayla me'Havaya. That is through hamshocha from the Ein Sof, which is higher than Havaya. So Shuva Yisrael ad Havaya Elikecha, because you have to do teshuva and you have to tap into a level which is higher than Havaya. So when Havaya becomes Elikecha, you can see that you tapped into a higher level, because when could the level of higher than Medida V'Agbola impact the level of Medida V'Agbola? When can Sovev impact, connect with Memale? It's when you tap into a higher level. Why do we need that? Because we need to do teshuva. That's why the pasuk is there. Shemamshich bekosu ki chashalta b'aveinecha. You stumbled with your sin. You're not just doing Torah mitzvahs, which would be enough sevev and mamali. Since chashalta b'aveinecha, you've stumbled with sin. Shehutam al zeh. That is the reason for this. Shatshuva tzricha liyos b'ofen zeh. This is why does the tshuva need to be on such a level that Havaya becomes Elikecha. The mikriv on shecha shalta b'aveinecha, since you have stumbled in the sin, lochein ein maspik ha'avoida de b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha. That's why it's not sufficient, the avoida of l'chol levavcha nafshecha, shemitzad Hashem es Elikim v'Havaya, which come from the names of Elikim, of Havaya, Namali, and Sovev, Levavcha, Nafshecha. Now we need to a higher level. We need B'chol Meidecha. B'chdei shetia hamshocha me'erin sof shelamayla me'Havaya. So in order to get hamshocha for higher Havaya, we need that because we got to do teshuva. How do we know that? Ad Havaya Elikecha, when Havaya becomes Elikecha. Shuva Yisrael basically means when you do teshuva, reach in b'chol moedecha, do teshuva b'chol moedecha, reach into the higher level. That makes havaya likecha. Because chashalta b'beinecha, we need to go into a higher level. That is the Alter Rebbe's first pirush in the meaning. But in Ois Zayin, the Rebbe brings down another pirush in Shuva Yisrael ad havaya likecha. Here we're saying Hashem should become Elikecha Kachacha V'Chayisecha. The other pirush tells us that the level of Hashem, which is Soivev Kulalman, such a high madrega, relative to the higher level, it's only Elikecha. The level of Havaya, which is Soivev, when you compare it to the level that you're mamshich through Shuva Yisrael, that Havaya, that's not even, that's like Mamalaklam, that's a very limited level of oir, even though it's the Seviv Kulamim, because next to the real oir, it's only considered. Ad Havaya Lekecha means that Havaya becomes also Lekecha. Zayin. V'oid Pirush b'Shuva Yisrael. Ad Havaya Lekecha, another interpretation, Ad Havaya Lekecha. Shat Shuva Tzricha Liyesh. That the Shuva needs to be Ad Shavaya Yeh Rak B'chinas Elikim V'Tzimtzum, that Havaya will only be like a level of Elikim, a level of restriction, Legabe Oirin Sof Shalamayla Mahavaya, which is relative to the Oirin Sof, which is higher than Havaya. This is just Elikim now, which used to be Havaya, all of a sudden is only Elikim. What's the difference between the two Pirushim? The difference is what we are mamshich. According to the first shot, we're mamshich Havaya and Elikim, but we're mamshich, the power from above gives the koyach that Havaya should become Elikim. That connecting power comes from the higher source. But what do we get? We get Havaya and Elikim. But according to the second shot, we're getting entirely a revealed level which is higher than Havaya Elikim. So what's the difference between these two interpretations? In Ad Havaya Elikim, the la pirush ba'ad Havaya Elikecha, Shavaya Yeh Elikecha Kochacha V'Chayisecha. According to the first shot, that Havaya Ad Havaya Elikecha, that Hashem should become Elikecha, should become your power and your vitality. So what does extend openly? Who Hashemas Havaya Elikim. The bottom line, we get the names of Havaya Elikim. So we get Mamala and Seviv. Elo. But how could Seviv function in Mamali? Elo Shachibur, the Beis Hashemas Hu Al Yidei Hamshocha Me'orin Sof Shalamayla Ma'Havaya Elikim. But the connection, how could you connect the two, is through bringing down from the Sof Havaya Elikim. But Ulaha Pirush Ba'ad Havaya Lekecha. But according to the explanation, in when we say Ad Havaya Lekecha means Shahavaya Yeh Rak B'chinas Elikim V'Tzimtzum, that Hashem will only be Elikim V'Tzimtzum L'gabe Nisof Shalamayla Ma'Havaya, relative to Nisof Shalamayla Ma'Havaya. So it'll just be Elikim. So then Ha'oir Atzmei Shalamayla Ma'Havaya Nimshach V'Gilui. According to the second shot, the higher light of the Ein Sof is what comes out Begilu. It's not Havaya and Elikim, but it's the higher level than Havaya. The Zeh Shavaya Nase Bechinas Elikim V'Tzimtzum Legabe Ein Sof Shelamaylim Havaya. This that we're saying, that Hashem becomes Elikim and contracted relative to the Ein Sof that is higher than Havaya. It's only specifically when the light which is higher than Havaya shines openly, when it's revealed. That is when Havaya becomes Elikim, the previous one, So over there, this is a much more powerful explanation that the Havai, the higher level of Havai itself comes big Gilui. That is when Havai and Elikim will become, then Havai becomes Tzimtzum. And as opposed to the previous Purish, that impacts the Havai Elikim. But what you're getting is Havai Elikim. And the Rebbe brings down now that this is also whether we just get Havai and Elikim, but we get them together, the Havai is Mamshich and Elikim, or we actually get the higher level, is also a similar to the difference between the actual blowing of the shofar and the psukim that we say in the davening about the shofar. Bechlal, in the Maimer in Samach Vov, he explains that the three brachas of Malchias, Chroines, and Shofres, the three brachas that we do on Rosh Hashanah in the davening, one is Malchias is Malakul Almim, Zechroines is Soivav Kol Almim, and Shofres is the Ein Sof, which is higher than Memali and Soivav. But in Shofres itself, he explains in Samach Vov, there are two levels. There's the actual shofar, and then there is the psukim of the shofars that we say in the davening. So these two levels in the higher than Soivav Kol Almim, there is the two madregas that we're talking about now. The shofar itself brings down the level that Havaya should become Elikim, that level in which, well, we still get Havaya and Elikim, but the psukim of the shofars, they bring down the higher level of yourself that should be Begilu Ba'atzma. Let's see aside. Shloimar, we can say that Chiluk ben Shnei HaPirushim, that the difference between the two explanation in Havaya Elikim, hu al derech HaChiluk, that is similar to the difference shebein tkiyas shofar la'amidas psuke shofars, between the actual blowing of the shofar and saying the verses of the shofars. The hine mevur behemshich tofresh samach vov. It's explained in the hemshich tofresh samach vov. Shemalchios v'zichronos hem be'oir hamemale ve'oir hasovev. That the first two brachas of Malchus and Zichronos, they are respectively one in the Eir HaMemale, and the other one is the Eir HaSovev. But v'hamshocha shal yidei shofar, but the shofar, by shofar we have two things. We have the shofar and the brachas of the shofar, birchas shofars. So shal yidei shofar hi me'eirin sof shalom maila me'maila v'sevev, which is higher than maila v'sevev. Va'ad leham shocha, till the extent that you bring down mehelem ha'atzmi, the hidden of the essence by himself in the highest level of the Ein Sof. Shal yidei hamshocha zu, bringing down the tkiyas shofar, brings down nasa hayichud sevav mamali, that combines the sevav mamali, like we said, combining Hashem and Elikim. But v'hamshocha shal yidei amidas psuke shofras, but saying the verses of the shofras, hilamaylo yoser gam hamshocha shal yidei tkiyas shofar. That's even higher than hamshocha that comes through tkiyas shofar. The hamshocha shal yidei tkiyas shofar, what we bring down through tkiyas shofar, hirak oir hasovev v'oir hamemale. That brings down the sovev and the memale, which means it brings her mali, but you el shaydei sham shocha himeirin sof. But since it comes from the Eirin Sof, or not just Eirin Sof, well, mali is helam ha'atzmi, even from the higher level, helam ha'atzmi, hem ischabrim misachdim, so they connect and they unite. But that happens through the shofar. But what we're getting here is the save of the mamali. But by day amiris psuka shofras nimshach helam ha'atzmi atzmi, that brings down the helam ha'atzmi himself. Bedugmas hagilu sheyiyeh la'osid, similar to the revelation that will be in the future. So that over there will be the helam ha'atzmi himself, not just the shape of a mamali, which is combined the chibur through the helam ha'atzmi, but the helam ha'atzmi will be begilui, similar to what we're saying in the second interpretation, ad havaya elikecha, that in order for havaya to be in the level of elikecha, it needs to be begilui, the helam ha'atzmi, the ein sof needs to be begilui. And this will be v'zo mashe b'psuke shofris, emrim psuke shofris the matan Torah. And that's why in the verses of Shofris we say the psukim of Matan Torah, Misayimrim in B'inyan HaShofar the La'osid, and we conclude with the Shofar of the future. Ki La'osid Yolova Yiyah Hagilu the Helam Ha'atzmi, because in the future to come will be the revelation of the Helam Ha'atzmi. So, that was also the revelation of Matan Torah. Basically, that is the higher level that we get through the Psuke Shofres. The Psuke Shofres talk about Matan Torah and La'osid, in which the Helam Ha'atzmi would be Nizgala. Ches. V'hinei HaShofar de La'osid Unayle Yoser MaShofar de Matan Torah. Even though we're just saying that a Matan Torah and L'Osid Lave will be the Gilu Helam Ha'atzmi, but still the Shofar L'Osid is even higher than the Shofar of Matan Torah. We find in the Pirkei de Rabbi Lezer, Be'inyan Breis Kronov Shel Eila Shel Yitzchok. Over there it talks about Yitzchok's, the ram that Yitzchok was brought. Instead of Yitzchok, it had two horns. What were these two horns used? So it says in Pirkei de Rabbi Lezer that the Keren Hayomin of the Ram Yitzchak Godlam HaSmol, the right horn was larger than the left horn. And what were they used for? B'shel Smol Toka by HaKadosh Baruch Hu al Har Sinai. The left one Hashem blew at Mount Sinai. Ub'shel Yamin Osid Litkoya by L'Osid Love. But the right one Hashem will blow in the future to come. So that means that the shofar of the future La'osid is greater than the shofar of Matan Torah. That's on one level that we have. We know that the shofar La'osid Lave will be higher than because that will be the shofar of the Yamin, the right side of the horn, the larger shofar. But also in the shofar of the future, there's also several levels. It's not one level. We say in one pasuk it says Va'adnai Havaya, or it's pronounced Va'adnai Alikim B'Shofar Yitka. Over here we use the name of Adnai and Hashem that blows the shofar. But in the other pasuk it says Va'yemahu Yitaka B'Shofar Godla. It doesn't say Adnai Havaya. It just says Yitaka B'Shofar Godla. So that's a higher level because it doesn't say even Adnai Havaya. The Adnai Havaya hem Shemus. Adnai Havayas are still names. Adnai Havaya. It's a very high name. Why? Because this is Adnai Elikim. Shemus Elu, these names, when we say Adnai and Elikim, Adnai Havaya, Benikud Elikim, hem Nailim B'Yoyse, those are very high levels. Kimavur Barucha B'Lekutei Torah, as explained at length in Lekutei Torah. So, Lechatchila, the beginning will be Adnai Havaya, their names, a very high name, Adnai Elikim, but that's the beginning. As explained in Lekutei Torah will be with a name. The Gilui Zeh Yiyeh Bascholos HaGula, that will be the beginning of the Ula. But La'achri Zeh, after that, Yitaka B'Shofar Godel. Over there, it doesn't say any more any names. It just says he will blow with a great shofar. Yitaka Stam. It says Stam, but they never mihu atekeya. Doesn't say who's the blowing. Tikitkiya zu, because that blowing, he amshocha vigilui, that's extension and revelation b'pchina stimo the chol stimin, hidden of all hidden. So you have la'osid lavei. So first of all, we say la'osid lavei is a greater shofar than by Matan Torah. Within la'osid lavei, we also have two madregas. We have avaya lekim yitaka, the beginning of la'osid lavei, and then you have bayemu yitaka b'shofar godlu without avaya lekim. which is stimmer the whole stimmer, hidden the higher level. יש לומר, זה שבפסוק שופר זה ראש השונה, אומרים גם הפוסק, יתוקע בשופר גודל. Why do we say in the psukim of Rosh Hashanah also the pasuk of yitokah b'shofar gadol? This implies that on Rosh Hashanah, with not only do we have Havai Elikim Yitokah, which is the high level but not the highest level, but we also have Yitokah b'shofar gadol. Who kal yidei ha'avoida the Rosh Hashanah mamshichim gam inyan zeh. We bring in down this inyan. V'al pi zeh yesh loymar. So based on this, we can say. The She'omrim b'ha'haftoira the Shabbos Shuva Yisrael ad Havaya Elikecha. We say return till Havaya Elikecha. Now here Havaya is Yud Kei Vav Kei. Havaya, we say Hashem. We don't say Elikim. But the Rebbe adds and says that in this Havaya it's also hidden the name Elikim. Sheba'Havaya zeh nichlal gam ha'inyan. It's also include the idea that Havaya Adnai Benikud Elikim, that it's also that inyats it's Benikud Elikim. Shehu Dargen Aile B'Yosef, which is a higher level, because when Havaya with Elikim together is a higher level. Ba'afal Pikein Omrim, and still we say Shatshuva Tzrichas Liyos, that there needs to be at Havaya, this Havaya, which has also the Elikim, Yirak B'chinas Elikim V'Tzimtzum. It should only be contracted relative to the higher level. So even that Havaya, which was also Elikim, that will be Tzimtzum. Kal Yidei Avodah the Rosh Hashanah Mamshichim Gam in Yitokah b'Shofar Gadol, because you even have the level, the higher level, the Yitokah b'Shofar Gadol. That's why we mention it in the Pesukah Zechroinus. Relative to this level, also the name Havaya, which is Adnai Kelekim, Havaya Adnai Kelekim Yechoshev, will be considered Elikim. So the Rebbe brought out that in the Hamshacha you have the Shofar Gadol, this time Yitokah b'Shofar Gadol, and that Yitokah b'Shofar Gadol essentially comes out on Rosh Hashanah, as we say it in the davening. And when we say Havaya Elikecha, means that even the Havaya Benikud Adnai will be Elikecha, because there will be the Gilu of Yitokah b'Shofar Gadol, and even that Shem Havaya will be in a level of Elikim. Yes. V'hine Yodua Mashakosu B'geres HaTshuva, She'Tshuva Elohi B'Simcha Rabbah, that the tshuva law is with great joy. Move on bekol shkein. So when this we understand how much more so benegei la tshuva the Shabbos tshuva, as it relates to the tshuva of the Shabbos tshuva, shebetshuva ilo atzmo hidargen nailas b'yesed. That means in the tshuva ilo it's a very high level. Tshuva ilo is with simcha, but tshuva ilo on Shabbos is even a higher level. Even Havaya Adnai, which is the level Hashem Elikecha, will be Elikim. Will only be Havaya Adnai will be only like level of Tzimtzum Yechoshev. Should be with a powerful, a great joy. Since joy breaks through all limitations. The joy, the simcha, and the tendency of tshuva. Especially on Shabbos tshuva. We break through all limitations and all measures. Simcha, the simcha of Aseres Tshuva. As the pasuk says, respond to me in a wide way, breaking through all limitations. This extends on top and all year in the spiritual matters. Mitzvahs, that when we serve with the Torah mitzvahs, should be in a wide way, to spread out, burst out. And also in our physical matters. With children, life, and sustenance in a wide way. Va'ad l'harchova hamitis, until the real, true wide way, Shetia, the bias Mashiach Tzidkenu, which will be when Mashiach will come, Urechova, and in a wide way, L'mayla, that this will be above Asida Yerushalayim Liyos Merucheves, which is quoting from the Pasuk in Yechezkel that Yerushalayim will be widened. Shetispashe b'chol Asida Yerushalayim Shetispashe b'chol Eretz Yisrael. Yerushalayim will expand to all of Eretz Yisrael. Asida Eretz Yisrael Shetispashe b'chol Arotzos, and Israel will expand into all lands. The Bias Mashiach Tzidkenu Karev Mamish. Okay, way too late.
Okay, have a good day.
Yeah.